Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, we begin with a post from the subreddit Am I the A-hole that has 2 updates. Then we'll move on to an amazing pro-revenge, and we'll finish up with some malicious compliance. Like usual, if you want to move around the video, you can always just use the timestamps. Now, let's get started with that first story. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user LostPapaya9278. Am I the a-hole for not accepting my sister's relationship with my ex despite her having cancer as a teenager? My 25 female father married my stepsister's 23 female mother when I was 4 and she was 3. We've lived together most of our lives and are a family. She and I were extremely close. She developed cancer when she was 14 and was sick for about 2 years. She's since made a full recovery. During that time, my parents became understandably overprotective. They also asked a lot of me. I quit my extracurriculars so I could get a job. The money went towards her medical bills, and so I could drive her to appointments. I didn't go to dances and any fun activities I did need to include her. I did almost all of this willingly, the exception being having to quit my high school volleyball team. I did throw a bit of a tantrum about that, but was swiftly punished. And I think having one emotional breakdown was pretty chill given the circumstances. Anyhow, I go to college and meet my ex when I'm a junior. We'll call him Ben. We fall in love, blah blah blah. He and I move in together when we graduate, so we've been living together for about 3 years. We were serious until July, when I walked into my bedroom and saw him effing my sister. I broke it off, tears were shed, he moved out, etc. My sister apologized at first, but then backed off. I thought she was giving me space, but last week she called and asked if we could meet up. She told me that she and Ben were in love and were just telling me as a courtesy before they started posting photos online. Distraught, I left her in the restaurant by herself and did not pay my portion of the bill. She later Venmo'd me asking for the money. She told my parents, who then called me to their house, telling me how disappointed in me they are for not supporting my sister's relationship with Ben. They brought up the fact that because she had cancer as a teenager, she never learned proper social etiquette and has a hard time meeting people. I don't buy this, in part because I've seen her socialize just fine, and since we spent a good chunk of that time she was sick together, that would also mean that I should have bad social skills as well, by that logic. They then told me that if I don't accept my sister and Ben's relationship, they may have to go no contact with me. I reminded them that I'm also their daughter and they should understand my point of view, but they are adamant that this is about me being jealous of her. For the record, I'm not jealous of her. I'm not upset that Ben picked her over me. I'm sad about the end of the relationship and do feel betrayed, but Lord knows that I don't want to be with a cheater. What I'm upset about is the fact that my sister chose Ben over me, that she slept with Ben knowing he and I were in a long-term committed relationship and continues to be with him knowing how much it hurts me. No one in my immediate family is talking to me, and I'm getting messages from aunts and uncles and cousins telling me that I'm an a-hole and a selfish bitch. Well, OP, in my opinion, you are definitely not an a-hole and your family totally sucks. Of course, what your sister went through is absolutely horrible and it sucks, and it's great that she was able to overcome it, but that does not justify in any way her going to your house to sleep with your boyfriend. And that ridiculously stupid mental gymnastics that your parents are making in order to justify her doing so is gross. OP, your parents told you that they might have to go no contact if you don't accept this. Well, I would say that you should go no contact with them. You don't need that toxicity in your life. And regarding your family members giving you their opinion, I'm pretty sure they don't have the full story, so maybe you'd like to clear that up to shut them up. Anyways, you are not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Let me know your judgment in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Talea says, not the a-hole. Your parents are enablers. Cancer as a teen did not shrink-wrap her and isolate her from the entirety of human mores and values forever and ever, amen. From what you describe, it sounds disturbingly like you have been deemed the cannon fodder of the family. Take some time for yourself and put them on the back burner. Dr. Bitchcraft says, not the a-hole. I had cancer as a teenager. I've managed to not have sex with either of my siblings' partners, weirdly enough. And OP responds, maybe you were on a different treatment plan? Our Tarara says, not the a-hole. Oh heck no. Your sister is using an illness she had a decade ago as an excuse to sleep with your boyfriend and have that be okay. It's not. The fact your parents are going along with this smacks of having a golden child. I'm sorry to say that sometimes the trash takes itself out. Your sister is awful. Your parents are and were awful. It was not your job to quit every activity to pay your sister's medical bills and drive her around. It's good that you know this now and can get some therapy and move on with your life. You deserve better people in your corner and they are out there waiting for you. OP's edit. Thank you everyone so much for your comments. This has gotten more attention than I expected and I'm having trouble keeping up. So if I don't say thank you, then thank you. I've been giving a lot of food for thought. To be honest, while I've had moments where I've been resentful or upset about my teenage years, I've always thought that I did the right thing for my sister and for my family. And that time wasn't all miserable. I was very close to my sister and we made things as fun as we could. But I didn't think of it as an abdication of my parents' responsibilities or that they were doing wrong by me, which many of you pointed out. I definitely have a lot to think about. Thank you again for making me feel less crazy about all of this. Okay, well, the community absolutely backs OP up as not the a-hole. So now we move on with the first update. Update. Sometimes you can only laugh. Just got off the phone with my cousin who saw this post and said he could explain a few things. I asked him why he was on Reddit instead of school. He asked me why I was on Reddit instead of work. I said touché. He told me that after my conversation with my mom, she went to his house and talked to my aunt. And here's the deal. Turns out my sister is not only in a relationship with Ben, but 4 months pregnant, which means she and Ben were effing for longer than I had even guessed. Apparently, my parents are so adamant that I forgive her because I'm already ruining their experience of their first grandchild. That's right, I'm less important than my stepmom posting ultrasounds to Facebook. This is where we're at. Anyhow, I called out of work sick the rest of the day and I'm going to drink a lot of alcohol, like a lot of alcohol, and then start thinking about what the F I'm going to do. Well, that was a twist. It still doesn't change the outcome that they all suck. Anyways, let's continue with the final update to see how OP dealt with all of this. I was asked for an update and thus here I am. 2 things to clarify before the update. 1. I didn't have a crappy childhood. The favoritism started when my sister was diagnosed. I moved down soon after and have been pretty independent since then. Not saying that how my parents treated me during those years was okay, but I wasn't Cinderella. And 2, I did not drink myself into oblivion. I had 2 white wine spritzers, but I appreciate the concern from folks. Anyhow, the update. I got in touch with my sister and asked her to meet up again at a park, no bill involved. I asked her if she was pregnant and she told me the truth. She said she wanted us to still be in each other's lives and that she wanted me to be in her babies. A Redditor, I forget who, I'm sorry, mentioned that she may ask me to be the godmother and that person was correct. But as many of you pointed out, if I didn't cut her off, I'd just become her bank and daycare employee. So I told her I could no longer be in her life, and I left her crying on a park bench and felt like the crappiest person in the world. I emailed my parents and told them how betrayed I felt and that I'd be cutting off contact with them. To my stepmom's credit, she apologized. She explained that she never thought my sister would live to have kids and that she let her emotion over that get the better of her. Understandable. My dad said nothing, which is honestly what sucked the worst about all of this. Ben tried messaging me from a burner account for the first time since the breakup, but I blocked him without reading it. I didn't go nuclear and post the story to Facebook as some suggested, but I sent an email to the extended family members who I care about. I explained the situation and how I'd be distancing myself from my family. Some have made it an us versus them situation, and as much as I appreciate the support, feeling like I'm in some valiant battle just makes me more tired. So I haven't been talking much to anyone in my family. I feel lonely and crappy, but I think I made the right decision. It's not the most exciting update in the world, but hopefully everyone knows I'm not dead. I do really appreciate the support I've gotten. It made me smile during a really crappy time. And hey, if anyone in the greater Boston area wants an extra guest at Thanksgiving, let me know. Well, OP, I'm sorry you had to go through all of this to learn that your family sucks, but you did do the right thing. You don't need any of those people in your life, and hopefully you'll be okay soon. So here's hoping for the best in your future, OP. Take care, and thanks for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Pro Revenge, and it's by user DJ Duke of Spook. When your ex tells you to move out while she's on a work trip because the guy she cheated on you with is moving in, you get very creative moving out. I did this to an ex who asked me to move out while she was on a work trip and told me she was coming back with her new boyfriend. We were still together when she left. So I got these little noisemakers, battery-powered ones the size of a quarter that emit sounds at just the right volume that you aren't sure if you really heard it. So quiet that two people could be sitting in an average-sized room, and while one can barely hear it, the other wouldn't hear a thing. They last ages and fit perfectly in light fixtures and in-wall outlets. I got a box of 20 of them for like $100 on eBay and got so creative all over the house, her car. I even hid them in a boat her father got her. Rich family, and she grew up sailing. Now, these little bastards make noise at completely random intervals. Could be minutes, could be hours, could take a whole day off. They cycle noises like children laughing, a dying breath as they called it, a whistle, scratching noises, some other ones I can't remember, but you get the idea. It was so unpredictable, it was near impossible for someone to just figure it out. Months go by, I get a new place, get my life back up. Now, we had a few friends in common, and one of them I kept up with. They were kind of sour about how she ended things, but they had grown up together and kept up the friendship, loosely talking and catching up on occasion. I never really asked about her, but one day we get to talking and he's wanting to prank some friends on a camping trip, so I tell him about the noisemakers. As I'm telling him about them, he slowly starts making this face, like he's gradually losing his crap. He's got this huge grin on his face and asks me, "You put these in your ex's crap, didn't you?" And when I admit, he starts laughing hysterically. It just so happened that her new boyfriend had only lasted a few months and had left telling her that he couldn't handle whatever was going on with them and their mental states. Turns out, for a while, they had both heard things, and sometimes only one would hear them, which gave the illusion that something really effed with them was going on in their heads at different times. They couldn't figure it out, and eventually he wanted out completely. And after running down all the list of crazy crap people who are hearing voices would think, he ended up believing he had been infected with some brainworm the government was putting in vaccines or something like that. It was amazing! I hadn't expected to hear anything about it. I rode that train for weeks. When it went away, I got another hit of that high. She moved out, told her parents she didn't want the house and to give it to her brother or sell it. Wouldn't tell them why. I always tell people who ask about her that I hold no grudge, and don't tell them the part where I totally effed with her so bad I overshot the gutter backstage and hit the blissful state of satisfaction with my work. My wife knows this story by heart because it's her favorite one to tell. Wow, OP, that was epic and awesome, and all of the adjectives. I think I laughed as hard as your friend when I was reading that part. Thanks so much for sharing, OP. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user New Bromance. The time read your contract backfired regarding holiday pay. Back in 2015, I worked for a pretty dismal call center. It was an outsourced center that handled customer support for a lot of UK retailers. Staff turnover was real high, with the vast majority being on temporary contracts and the promise of a permanent contract being hung over people's head to make them suck it up being treated like crap. After working there for about 2 years, in late February of that year, I was offered a permanent contract because they wanted to put me on their team leader program. The pay was slightly better, the job security was better, The only major difference was how holidays were handled. People on temporary contracts were paid for any unused holidays at the end of the working year in April. People on permanent contracts had to use their holidays or they would lose them. I had just over 3 weeks of holidays saved up, so the day I accepted, I booked 3 weeks off in March as I would lose them in April. March rolled around and my manager told me that my holidays had been refused. I said that's fine as long as they pay me for them, and he replied that no, if you don't use your holidays, you lose them. I said that I was trying to use my holidays and they were not letting me. He shrugged and said it's the duty of the employee to manage their holiday time wisely and I should read my contract. Despite the fact I had only gotten that contract 3 weeks earlier and the holidays worked differently. Understandably annoyed, that evening I went home and read my contract from beginning to end and discovered my manager had overlooked one crucial part of the paperwork. The contract clearly stated I had to give a week's notice and that any holidays not used would be paid to any leaving employee in full on their last paycheck. The next day, I came into work and announced I would be quitting unless they paid my holidays or allowed me to take the time off. And if they accepted my notice, then to be sure my holidays were included in my final paycheck. My boss asked me if I was really going to quit over this, and I replied if he was really going to lose one of his most reliable employees over this. He wouldn't budge. I assume he thought I was bluffing, so I handed in my notice, and on my leaving interview with my manager's manager, I made sure to explain exactly why I was leaving. And yes, my final paycheck did include my unused holiday days. The end. Well, OP, I would have liked to see your manager's face when you did that. That is very assertive, so good for you for taking that kind of control. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.